get a cup of coffee in here, please?
Damn good coffee and hot.
Wake up, America. You've got a dog that needs walking. That's right, sunshine. Just put on a big pot of strong coffee and get ready to type your little hate mail with your opinions about kumbaya and flat earth insanity. Stand-up comedy? You want stand-up comedy? Well, we've got sit-down comedy. It's time for Coffee with the Dog. You make me laugh.
Give me gas. Oh, you make me laugh. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, my ears are working better, but my eyes are going. Feels like there's a screen out there. Oh, what was that? Oh, somebody's hitting the wrong buttons and stuff already. Good morning, folks. It is Friday, February 23rd, 2024. Hope you're having a great morning wherever you are. It's a little cloudy here, but a little warmed up. Speaking of walking the dog, couldn't get the dog to go out for a walk today because my wife had some Goodwill people coming to pick up stuff that I had to put in the driveway, and the dog is afraid of the stuff. But hope it's a wonderful day wherever you are. If you don't know, we landed on the moon again. Well, I say we. I didn't, and you probably didn't. If you're listening to this program, watching this program, wherever you are, you're probably not on the moon. I don't think there's any humans on the moon, but a spacecraft built by a U.S. company out of Texas has landed on the moon and taking pictures, high res pictures, and sending them back. Wondering how the flat Earth people are reacting to this news and the moon landing deniers. What do they have to say about that? I'm sure they're going to say it's all just bullshit, but in the past they've said it's all just bullshit because they didn't trust NASA. This is a private company, which is really not part of NASA. So what do they have to say about it? I don't know. We'll find out. I mean, I haven't heard a lot of rumblings about it. Most people don't even, I mean, it's not like a big story anymore. Yeah, landed on the moon. You know what? It's an unmanned spacecraft. To be honest with you, the moon is no big deal. We've been going to Mars for years. Of course, flat Earth people will probably tell you that's all bullshit too. But Jumping Jimmy Rogers will tell you that he's got proof of life on Mars. So, you know what? People, let them argue. Let them argue. I'm here for all of it. I think we have a good show for you today. Killer Baez from the Discovery Channel show Moonshiners will be here in the first hour. He's got a performance coming up in Tandy. Where is it? Tandy, North Carolina? Where is it? Tabor City. I'm sorry. I don't know where I got Tandy from. Tabor City, North Carolina, at the Rich Center on March 8th, and we'll be talking about that. We'll also talk a little bit about Moonshiners, the program, because as you know, I'm not a television person, but I have an idea what Moonshiners is about, and we'll talk to him a little bit about that stuff and all that kind of stuff. In the second hour, Jackie the Joke Man Martling will make his triumphant return to this wonderful platform, or he'll be here, in other words. February, if it seems like forever ago that we discovered that February was Black History Month, and that GD was doing his little thing that got him in trouble with his wife with the old time Heckle and Jekyll routine, Amos and Andy voices kind of thing. Well, it occurred to me that we are not doing as well with Black people as I would hope And I thought, you know what? I kind of blame this on GD and Aaron Bullitt and people like that for not doing their part to promote us to the African American community. Um, but I had a thought last night. You know what? What are black people like? Well, I thought they can't resist sneakers. Sneakers are like catnip to black folks. They come around like, oh, sneakers, gotta have it, gotta have it. Well, we have our own brand, and this is not a joke, folks. Air doggies are available now, 129.99 or 129.95. They will be in the store today. Air doggies. They have the little Mind Dog logo on them. Have Mind Dog TV written on the inner sleeve there, whatever that is. A couple of pictures of the logo on the back heel of it. Great quality sneakers. We will be introducing this at the annual or first annual uh, fried chicken and watermelon buffet, which we'll be having next week. Hopefully, come on, we'll be increasing the audience by at least one black person and two black feet. I'm sorry. There is a reference behind that joke, but anyway, yeah, you can see right here how excited black folks are about uh, air doggies, and we'll be talking more about them as we put them in the store. Air doggies, get your air doggies, 129.95, better than 399.95 for your Trump shoes or whatever, and they'll make you run really fast, really fast. Run away from this program, maybe, possibly. Anyway, Willie is not here today. Willie is sick. Apparently, he's had some green chili back in New Mexico that messed with him, or maybe it was black chili. Maybe that's the problem. That's why the black folks don't like us. Uh, and you would think we'd have at least one black fan, but we have no black people in the audience, which is a shame. We need to work on that. Good morning, GD. Get us some black fans now.
Okay. Uh, I was I was gonna because there's only 6 more shopping days till March, which is Women's Month. So get the women in your life something they'll love, or get them something from minddogtv.com.
Well, let
So,
me just tell you, those sneakers are available in men's and women's. I just want to say that. So if
well,
you could get your woman a pair of sneakers, 129.95.
I endorse them.
Okay. Willie is sick. You have any words for our sick friend Willie?
Um, no, but I was speaking. I was about to say something, and I see Ian is also thinking the same things. The
What's
same thing. If you are these sneakers being marketed to black people, and are they made by black people? To increase the workforce. By blacks for blacks. And if they're made by black people, are these black people being paid? Yes.
You know what? I can't answer any of those questions. I'm under an NDA. No, I'm not under an NDA. I'm under a no information agreement. I don't know. I will
See,
find out.
in my neighborhood, NDA stands for nigga don't answer.
There you go. That's what I'm under.
Okay.
I don't know. I'll have to find out about that. I never really cared too much about ethics or morals or principles or any of that stuff. It's 2024. Who cares about that stuff? It could be. My guess is then probably made in Indonesia by some kid who's probably about 7 and was taken away from his parents and forced into sneaker manufacturing. That's
Now, for people who are not familiar with geography, Indonesia, and then there's Exonesia. Exonesia.
right.
Indonesia is just inside of Exonesia, just for people who aren't from. Let's go to the map right here.
All right.
Here we
Well,
go.
let's talk. Are you familiar with? You watch TV, right? You have a TV. You watch it.
I have multiple televisions.
And
I only watch
what
one
do
at
they
a
do?
time.
What do they do? They,
Well, depending on, I have a smart television, which apparently keeps track of everything we say in the room and then shows it to us later.
Wow, that's scary.
Yeah. That, actually, now to be honest, I just that's not only half true. My wife's phone is what does that. My wife's phone is if we talk about something near in the vicinity of my wife's phone,
That's
something,
definitely happening. I don't care
yeah,
what anybody says. That is definitely happening. Your phone is listening to you. This bitch over here, I don't even want to say her name. She's listening to me at all times, and probably knows more stuff about me than my wife knows about me. Probably,
yeah.
waiting
That's
to blackmail me.
yeah, that's why my wife and I, if we have something really serious and private to talk about, we do it away from her phone.
Right.
Otherwise, we'll be seeing commercials about it.
You know that crazy lady that got me banned from YouTube? She had this she had this ridiculous idea that the infrared little light on your TV was a camera and there was somebody at the other end watching you. But that
Right.
would mean because there's so many TVs,
Yeah.
you'd have to every one of us would have to be watching somebody. Each person would be assigned another person to
Well,
watch.
so you're assuming that someone in the U.S. is watching.
No, I'm assuming that someone in the world is watching, but with so many TVs in the world,
Right.
8 billion people in the world, that and 7 billion of them have TVs. That means somebody's got to be watching almost everybody has to have an assigned watcher at that point.
Well, yeah, but not everybody has their televisions on at the same time, and we have
But I've
time
never been
zones.
asked to watch anybody. Nobody's assigned me to be
Have
a
you
watch.
have you ever been part of the Nielsen's ratings?
I don't know.
Because usually you have to sign up for the Nielsen's ratings, and then you fill out these forms, and then they tell you the rules about the Nielsen's ratings, how to participate. So and if you didn't get asked to be part of the Nielsen's rating, which is actually the training program for the infrared information collection service.
I
um,
think I did like 40 years ago ask to be part of the Nielsen ratings. I don't remember
but
if
you
it
were
was.
probably turned down then if
I
you don't
think I
remember filling out the
probably
form.
was.
Yeah,
Yeah. I think it never
yeah,
went anywhere.
because you
Uh,
didn't probably fit in the demographic that they were looking for.
yeah, bald. They didn't fit. You had to have hair to watch, I think.
Well, they didn't have that demographic, you know.
Ah, uh,
So, I mean, you could have been bald and fit in another demographic, you know, like
mhm.
an age group or something that could have been full. And even though you fit that demographic, they're like, we're already full. We don't need him.
So the bottom line here, do you watch the Discovery Channel at all? Are you familiar with this Moonshiners program?
I am familiar with it from commercials. I've never watched it because um, I'm not their target audience.
I'm sorry. Do you mean Southern Hillbillies or you mean
I don't drink moonshine
I
anymore.
have drank moonshine when I played in a country band in Virginia, a traveling country band, Mountain Magic band. Drank moonshine for a while. It's not good for you.
No, it's not good for you, and that shit don't play.
Yeah.
It's not good for the inside or the outside of your body. Because I spilled some on my chin and chest because I didn't know it was moonshine. I thought it was water, and I chugged it, and It burnt my chin. It burnt my chest. It burnt my mouth, my stomach, my ass. If everything it touched, it burned.
Well, it's 8 seasons in the show Moonshiners. And it's about a legal activity. It doesn't seem, they were talking about the money, $100,000 a year from doing this stuff. That's not big money for what is essentially organized crime. Uh, it's actually that's chump change for what is essentially organized crime. And to make a television show out of it, like how do the cops not watching the show just to figure out who? All I have to do to catch the criminals is turn on the TV and
Well,
find
I
out.
figure by the time it airs, it's like 6 months old. So if the cops are that stupid to show up someplace 6 months later looking for evidence, then moonshiners need to get away.
Interesting. Yeah, interesting. I want to play a little clip. I have a song called Moonshine Shack, and
Is
it
this
will.
like the Love Shack? Only,
It's more like a pig shack. It will get us in the mood for what we're about to experience today. Now, Killer Baez is just showing up in the green room right now. let me play this clip to kind of get us in the mood for some.
Moonshine shacks down there still. Step around back and bring me just the bill. Traffic's gone fishing on Full Moon Lake, and all this shine is just ours today. Well, Pappy's been working all night and day, brewing up a mess for when it's time to play. Throwing up the back of a pickup truck. Come Saturday night, we're gonna drink it all up. Call it hillbilly cider, call it Mountain Dew. Make you feel happy, take away your blues. Just one sip to make a mountain man sing. Pulling up the fiddle, let the banjo ring. Moonshine shacks down there still. Step around back and bring it just to fill. Pappy's gone fishing on Full Moon Lake, and all this shine is just ours today. Well, taxman's coming and it just won't last. All good things are gonna come to pass. See a tag burn shape we didn't get. A taste for the revenue is coming, lay it off the way. Call it hillbilly cider, call it Mountain Dew. Maybe you'll have to take away your blues. Just one sip and make a mountain man sing. Pulling up the fiddle, let the banjo ring. Moonshine shack down there still. Step around back and bring it just to fill. Traffic gone fishing on Full Moon Lake, and all this shine is just ours to take. All this shine is just ours to take. All this shine is just ours to take.
I'm sure. Get out of my face, you. Get out of my face, you. I'm sure there is nothing more insulting to as somebody from Appalachia than me trying to say words like dag burn shame. But yeah, that was done probably, let's say, 15 years ago. And it was originally another song. I don't know why I came up with the Moonshine Shack thing. It was a whole other song that we had recorded years before called Percodan, man. It's my buddy was he was experiencing some dental pain, and he was just complaining about all the pain he was in, but he was addicted to Percodans for painkillers, and it was. Percodan, man, I don't know, for some reason I thought it had to be another song because it's too personal and it wasn't. But there's that. Those pigs, by the way, in that, those are my pet pigs. They're no longer with us, but those were my pet pigs.
By menu or by aging? Did they age out of the program, or were they eaten out of the program?
Rufus, the biggest one, got pneumonia, and he got pneumonia twice. The vet wanted to put him down the first time. Said, "You'll never save him. Once a pig gets pneumonia, he's dead, because pigs are just fat around the lung. That's all it is. An eating machine with fat built around the lung. That's all a pig is. And so once it gets pneumonia, it's kind of doomed." And I said, "No way. This is my buddy. I brought him home in my pocket. He was a baby pig. I'm going to nurse him back to health." And he said, "Well, if you're going to do that, you got to give him shots of penicillin every day and antibiotics every day, put a heat lamp on him and sit with him." And I did for like 2 months, every day with the heat lamp on him, giving him the shots and all this stuff. And he wasn't coming around. And he wasn't eating at all. A pig that won't eat is pretty much doomed. But then one day I went up to try and make him some breakfast. I got some bananas and stuff. And I went in, I was feeding him a banana, and he got voraciously hungry and started, going after the banana. And he got my thumb. And he bit my thumb, and there's blood shooting up all over.
And that's when you killed him.
No. So I was excited that he was coming back to life. So I went and bandaged up the thumb really quick and was putting some breakfast together, but he couldn't wait. And he was in this room, in an extra bedroom in the house, and I had the door closed. And instead of coming through the door, he bored a hole through the wall to the outdoors and ran out into the yard and then started eating in the yard. And that's, after 2 months of laying in a room, still had the strength to cut herself a pig-sized hole in the wall. He got better, but then he got pneumonia again a year later, and there was no saving him from that one. So, and I buried him. And once that happened, I gave the house to the woman I was living with, and I left flat out and said, "You can have the pigs, you can have it all," and I never looked back. I'm a rotten person for that. Anyway, our guest is here. Willie, if you're just joining us, Willie is not with us today. Willie is under the weather, as they say. So let me set this up for a 3-man shot, and we'll introduce our guest for today. We'll do it this one. With this
Is
one,
that spelled correctly? I guess it must be. It's his name. He would know.
what?
No, I thought you said his name was Baez.
It is Baez. No.
Okay.
Wait. What? What?
I'll wait. I'll wait for him. I'll wait for him. He can explain it. He can explain him to me.
Explain what?
He has to. I was just curious about. No, never mind. I just thought
you're not making sense. Would you make sense?
No.
All right. Killer Baez.
Now?
Killer Baez has his own unique brand of hard-hitting, laugh out loud, laugh a lot humor. He is touring now. He has a show coming up at what is the place called again? At the Ritz Center in Tabor City, North Carolina, on March 8th of this year. And he's on the show Moonshiners, which is on Discovery Channel, which not having a television show I don't know much about, but we're going to find out about now. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome in Killer Baez to the Coffee with the Dog program. Killer, welcome.
Hey, good morning. Thank you very much. That was the saddest pig story ever. Oh my God. And now I'm worried because Willie is out, and I'm wondering, is he getting shots of penicillin and is he under a heat lamp?
Willie's a little sick. He's in New Mexico. He just got back from South Dakota, and I think he got a hold of some bad green chili. That's my guess anyway. I don't really know what's going on with Willie, but I'm sure he cares about your concern.
Thank you, brother. Well, man, thank you. Thanks for letting me on. And just real quick, I got to tell you, it is Killer Bees.
Killer Bees.
It's pronounced Bees. My last name is Beasley.
Oh, Bees. Bees.
Yeah, my last name's Bees.
Oh, yeah, that's what he was talking about. Yeah, I said, well, excuse me for getting it wrong. Bees.
No problem, brother. You know how people will abbreviate your last names. My last name was Beasley, and they call me Bees my whole life. And about 100 years ago, I was a blues guitar player in the state of Mississippi. And I'd go out in front of whatever little band to do my guitar thing. And the people that knew me would go, "That was Killer Bees." And the people that didn't know me thought they were saying that was Killer Bees on guitar. So that's how that came to be. So when I started doing stand-up comedy 42 years ago, I kept that stage name, Killer Bees, Best Buzz in Town. And it's actually served me well because people will remember it because it's different and weird.
Killer Bees. Okay. You know what? For some reason, I just I assumed it was Baez because that's and that would be Baez spelled B-A. So you know what? My bad. I feel like a
no problem, dude.
Anyway,
I grew up listening to Joan Baez. So
that's you know what?
That's the problem. That's the problem when you have a literate co-host. They start to ask questions about things they read, and then they get in trouble and they get stuck in the corner.
No, well, you could have just explained what you were talking about rather than just mumble. Just say what you mean. That's anyway. I like to yell at him. Anyway, thank you for being here. Moonshiners. Let's talk about that before we get into the comedy stuff. This program, now I don't know much about it because I don't have television. I don't watch television at all. But it seems to me illegal activity would be easy to get caught by if you're going to publish it on a television show. Wait, are you a moonshiner or are you part of the people who produce the?
I'm a cast member on the show, and really I've been on for 8 seasons now. We're in our 12th season on the show, and I had very little knowledge of moonshine when I started the show, but during the course of the show, I have actually learned how to make moonshine. I can put together a moonshine still. I can mash in the botanicals that are being used, and I actually do a run of alcohol. And the show now, for those who may be unfamiliar with it, the Discovery Channel chronicles, if you will. They follow the everyday ins and outs of hillbillies in the mountains. And by the way, I've learned that hillbillies is synonymous with geniuses with overalls and spit cups.
Well,
So
I'm glad you said that because I have a preacher friend of mine who I told him I used to play in a hillbilly band. And if you're a Yankee and you say hillbilly, they take it as like a derogatory term. And it was a term of endearment, actually. The guys I played with were from uh, Western Virginia, West Virginia, and Tennessee. And they called themselves hillbillies. And so when I say a hillbilly band, I meant it as a term of endearment. But man, it was like I called them a racial epithet or something. Uh,
so, well, I tell you what, man, and the guys are brilliant. The guys on the show are absolutely brilliant. There's so much chemistry and physics involved in the, and I quote, distillation of non-taxable artisan spirits in a non-disclosed location. So,
but
and now, and here's how the show works, because when we first were approached to be on the show, we went through a pretty serious vetting process. The attorneys with Discovery Channel tell us that anything an agent sees on entertainment TV is hearsay evidence. Their stance is that an agent can't call a judge for a warrant and tell him, I was watching TV, there was a clear liquid dripping in a jar. The comedian said it was moonshine.
uh,
So there's one angle on it. And also we film several months before the show ever airs. So there's really no footprint there. The still site is gone. There's no product around. And I'll say this too, the guys that I work with on the show, Mark and Digger, are the two main guys that brought me on that I work with, are not heavy drinkers. They are not partiers. They're businessmen. Digger's motto is moonshine is for selling, not drinking.
okay.
So
Uh,
with all that said, man, it is such an intriguing and amazing thing to be a part of. I'm a small player on the show. I generally, my main deal is as a bootlegger, and that's the guy by definition that takes the moonshine from the actual distiller and then sells it down the road. So I
oh,
do a dual role. I will work still sites with them and do runs of liquor, but I also am the go-to guy for selling the large batches. So that's
okay.
kind of my role on the show, and it is so much fun, dude. It is really an amazing experience to get to do it.
Now,
Now,
a lot of people don't realize that NASCAR actually has its roots in moonshine
Oh,
because
oh,
I'm sorry. You
yeah.
go ahead. You
yeah.
were
Well, you're
pick it up.
absolutely right. That's one of that. That was kind of the impetus for a lot of people back in the day to modify their automobiles with higher horsepower, better handling, and so they could run from the police. Back then, there weren't as many officers out there. They didn't have those good radios where they could put a roadblock up a few miles ahead. And these guys who were really, most of them, trying to feed their families. Moonshining really dates way back to the founding of the country, but during the Depression, everybody grew corn, and they would once a month or whenever they would load up their mule with, let's just say 200 pounds of corn and go into town and sell it. Well, back then everybody grew corn. Everybody had corn in their yard. And so they learned, the moonshiners learned that if they turned that corn into spirits, that they would triple, quadruple 200 pounds worth. If they put 200 pounds of 100 proof moonshine, they would get far more money from it than they would just selling corn. And
Very
that's really, yeah, it was a subsistence thing for years and years, and a way of life for so many folks in Appalachia and really just all over the country. And so that's really kind of the roots of it, which to me is pretty intriguing and fun to learn about.
Yeah. You know what? I think that there was some talk about if it's not done right, it can be really dangerous in the distilling process. So you really have to know what you're doing. Yeah, you can't just nobody can just go out and create a still on their own, or should get a how-to book and try to do it. They could kill themselves by taking
Well,
advantage.
that's true, man. And there are, and there's a learning curve there. And this day and age, you can get a moonshine still on the internet.
Right.
You can get everything you need. And there are states here in America that will allow you to make moonshine for your own consumption. So the industry is a big hobby craft now. There's so many people that get these little small stills. They can put them on the stovetop, and make a quart of distillate. But the upside is that the materials used in modern times are not as dangerous as what it was back in the day. One of the
Yeah,
big
yeah,
things
okay.
is, yeah, way back, a lot of the piping, a lot of the stuff you had was lead based, and
Yeah.
the alcohol will leach that lead into the actual solution itself. So now you're seeing almost exclusively stainless steel and copper. And the
Wow.
reason, by the way, hey, the reason that you see so much copper is because when you mash in your botanicals, as we call them, the process to get alcohol created comes from the decomposition of those of the grains or the fruits, whatever you're using. And one of the byproducts of that decomposition are sulfides. So in nature, copper binds with sulfur. So when you're running your steel with copper, the sulfurs that are being made, the sulfides, are absorbed into that copper and do not come through into your distillate.
You have to actually be a bit of a scientist for this stuff.
But at some point, won't the copper? When does the copper pipe have to be replaced? Because at some point, the copper will have absorbed all of the molecules that are available to bond with the sulfides will have bonded. Or can they bond twice? Or
Oh yeah, you have to clean your copper. It
okay,
does not go into the copper. It stays on the surface that the
all right,
liquid touches. So you clean your copper. You'll see some copper. You know how you'll see old copper that has blue or green,
right.
this stuff on it. Well, that we have to clean that regularly in order to make a run of spirits. So that's the deal on that. So
Let
it's
me.
been a lot of fun doing the show, man. I've been doing stand up all these years, and I go all over the country doing shows, and there are so many fans of moonshiners that come out. Dude, I have to tell people when I do interviews, quit asking for moonshine on Facebook. So and
How
I
did you
get
get
those.
involved? Did they come to you from your stand
Dude,
up stuff?
they certainly did. Mark and Digger had seen me, I guess now it's been almost 30 years ago, at Zany's Comedy Club in Nashville. Fast forward about 20 years, I was doing some shows in Bristol, Tennessee, and it was where they live. And they hit me up on my Twitter feed. Dude, it's Mark and Digger from Moonshiners. We're big fans. We saw you at Zany's in Nashville. You're in our neck of the woods. Come see us.
Wow.
So that's how it started. Went and I had a meeting with them and we hit it off. And they said, "Dude, you need to let us teach you to make moonshine." And of course, I'm thinking to myself, y'all need to get me on that show because any career, when you get past that 30 years in it, you have to kind of reinvent yourself, if you
Right.
will. And I'm one of the old school comics, man. I was in the first ever comedy issue of Rolling Stone magazine.
Wow.
Back in '89, Carson and Letterman were on the cover of that. So
Wow.
it's really been a neat thing. It's national, actually international TV, because we get fan mail from Australia and Germany and all that stuff. So it seemed to me like, and you hear the sound of my voice. So it seemed to me like fans of the Moonshiner Show would really enjoy my presence on there, and it has worked really well for me. So
I
that's
bet it
what
has.
is, yeah, that's
Very
what's
cool.
cool about it, man. It's helped me out tremendously with promotional chops, if you will.
Now, the March 8th gig in Tabor, is it Tabor City, or am I pronouncing that wrong too? Tabor City, North Carolina?
Tabor City is what I believe it is.
Oh,
It'll be my
oh,
first trip there, and
that's
that's
what I was
coming
going to
up
ask.
March the 8th
So,
at the Ritz Center. I'll be at the Ritz Center there.
right, you're headlining that. Do you know your opener, or is it just you doing and no opener? How's that
I,
work?
well, I have an opening act named Dan Whitehurst, who is a retired police detective from Nashville, Tennessee. And and Dan is a great comic. Been doing stand up over 20 years. So he's my go-to opening act. We take him all across the country with us, and our styles are do not clash with each other. And he's a really good cat to work with. So we take our own guide. You know, you want to, when you're doing stand up is a very fragile art form. Any spoken word art form is very fragile, and there are environmental concerns, if you will, just the heat or coldness in the room, the distance the audience is from the stage, and of course, the impression that the opening act makes on those audience members. So we search around and we try to find people who are a good fit, who are professional, who have been around long enough that they're really good on stage, and that makes the entire show go well, because it's
Of
not
course.
just about my part of it. You know, the opening act, that's the presentation, that's when they meet, when the audience meets the show itself. So Dan Whitehurst is really good, and so that's who will be with me in Tabor City. Let me say this real quick because it's on my notepad. Tickets are available at killerbees.com, BEAZ, because we did not know any better.
Okay, that's in the description. But last night, James De Benedetto sent me sclaughs.com, which I clicked on, and it redirected me to JJ Comedy. You can buy tickets directly there, jjcomedy.com. Tickets are the prices here. Hold on, 35 and 55. Yes, that's what they are. And they're still available, and you can go directly there and buy them directly there at the theater. Now, have you the theater? So this is your first time in Tabor City, have you played that area of North Carolina? Have you performed in that area of North Carolina? No.
Oh, I have for decades and decades. North Carolina has been a very good market for me. For years and years, there's been a radio show out of Charlotte, the John Boy and Billy radio show. And I made, I guess, hundreds of appearances on this show with them over the decades. So the
Very
Carolinas, a lot of stuff in the Carolinas, Kentucky, Tennessee, Georgia. We're pretty much coast to coast. So
right.
it's been a blessed career too, brother. I got to tell you, man, I'm a very blessed and happy cat.
Yeah. Well, good for you. It's a lot of people right now. Stand-up comedy is like really just oversaturated with people calling themselves stand-up comedians. So many people are out there doing it. When you first started, was there that amount of competition, that many people,
The,
or do you think it's cyclical, or how does that go for you?
yeah, there were not that many comics back when I started. I started in '82. And so it was right before the big boom where you saw all the comedy clubs open, three or four in every city. Um, and when all the stand-up shows were on. Remember way back when you could not channel surf without seeing 15 different shows featuring stand-up comics. So I got in just before all that happened. So the timing for me was really great in that. And to reference what you said, man, there are so many comedians now,
Right.
and I've seen the art form change a lot in my tenure, 42 years. You know, it's the art form has gotten far more pointed now.
Right.
I'm old school. I like levity. I think God gave me a gift to make people laugh and smile, and I don't want to be the guy on stage who's putting down ideologies, who's putting down lifestyles. You know what I mean? I don't
Yeah.
feel like I have to do that. I feel like I'm there to give people an hour's worth of relief and some escapism everything that's going on around all of us.
Amen to that. I mean, too many people just want to feel like the art of stand-up comedy is to convince people to believe everything you believe and be on, share an ideology and all that stuff. When really the job is just, you know what? In the hair business, I was in the hair and beauty business for a long time. Vidal Sassoon used to say, "Always keep the beauty in it." In comedy, it should be always keep the funny in it. And I think people forget keep the funny in it a lot a lot of times. Comedy is about making people laugh. Um,
That's
so
because comedy
Totally
has become
agree.
I'm sorry, what you did?
I
I
just
say that's
said
because
totally
comedy.
agree.
Oh, no, I was just saying that's because comedy has become an outlet for therapy. It's become a replacement for therapy, which is why there's so many issues out there as opposed to the focus on the laughter. It's a focus on them trying to be healed and feeling a whole.
Right. Yeah.
Or at least my humble opinion, which is
Sure.
usually
Oh,
right.
and there's a lot of truth to that, man. There certainly is. I do shows all over the place, and I've had so many people over the years approach me after performance just to tell me, man, we're so glad we came. We're from out of town. We need to cheer up. We're in town for a funeral, so we decided to come get cheered up, and it makes me happy that I'm able to give people some relief. Everybody's got something out there that's bugging them. And so to me, that's where some of the joy I get out of it is to give people some relief from that.
Yeah.
That's really, I got to tell you that I'll tell you this, man, the earliest memories, the oldest memories in my dome, the earliest memory I have is living in Kosciuszko, Mississippi as a toddler in a funeral home. My dad was an embalmer and a funeral director, and I had the run of this funeral home. I can remember getting yelled at by the receptionist. Truett Jr., quit shooting that cat pistol. We're trying to bury somebody in here. But I saw, and this is the truth, I saw sad people come and go from where I lived. And I had no concept of life or death or funerals, but I learned as a toddler that I could do silly little cute things and the crying people would stop crying and come over and smile and talk to me. And I think to this day, y'all, I think to this day, that's what fuels my compulsion to make people laugh and smile. I've been like that my entire life, wittiest in school, all that kind of stuff. So I don't do really well around stoic people. It makes me feel like something's wrong. I
Right.
want everybody to start their day pumped up, happy, thankful that God gave us another day, and just be all smiles until at least 10:30, 11 when we realize it's gonna suck like yesterday.
Yeah.
But literally it has been my life's work. And I'll share this with you too. Before I was doing stand-up, years before that, I ran emergency ambulance calls. I was the guy that worked on you in the back. I was the youngest person in the state of Mississippi to have that job. And so what I do now is a total opposite emotional content.
Very
And it
cool
was,
stuff. A lot of
yeah,
life experience in your past that leads up to this stuff. Now, from
right.
from what I gathered, because I've watched some videos from you, your style of comedy is storytelling.
Correct.
I listened to one that was about the murder on the airplane. Um, and I'm just wondering, like, when you're in the moment, I'm assuming that's a true story and that you lived
Yes,
that
sir.
story. When you're in that moment, are you thinking at that time, this is going to make a great bit? I gotta write all this stuff down. I mean, the storytelling aspect of it. Are you always constantly thinking, oh, this is going in the act?
As a matter of fact, I am. And what serves me is I have been a reader since I was real little. I was a voracious reader. And because of that, I'm a decent wordsmith. And I think that's really one of my strengths is having a story and then embellishing and wordsmithing it. The turn of the phrase is so important. I like trying to do that to make it. I try to make a little movie scene happen in people's heads.
Yeah, yeah,
That's what I
no,
try to do. When I first started, I was a prop actor. I was a huge Gallagher fan. But I learned over the years, and I'm a big Carrot Top fan. Carrot Top used to open some shows for me back in the day. But I feel like if I tell a story, let's say a fishing story, if I hold up a prop rubber fish, the audience sees that prop rubber fish. But if I wordsmith it correctly and don't use a prop, people will see the most meaningful picture in their memory of that fish, whether it's a fish that got away, the one their kid just caught last weekend.
Right.
And that way it makes it more personable, and it's kind of catered to each individual.
I
So
get it, man. I'm just
yeah,
thinking of the clip that I saw most recently, the murder on the airplane, and I'm thinking about things that you said in that absolutely fit that description that you just gave me. Were you always a student of, because Barry Katz has, who is a comedy producer and manager of comedians, has this course, but he was talking about unique phrases make are what makes stand-up comedians memorable and all that kind of stuff. And it sounds like you got that, but not necessarily from having to go to a course to study it. You just picked it up naturally. Were you always a student of comedy and the, I guess, the science of the craft?
I was not always until I started doing it. I grew up in Jackson, Mississippi, and I'll be honest, there was nothing that ever happened in my life in school there or whatever that would have told me it was possible for me to pursue stand-up comedy. There were no comedy clubs anywhere in the state I lived in. And I had heard comedians. I had albums from Richard Pryor and different people, but it was never on the radar of something that was available to me. And so I was playing blues guitar, working in a music store, doing guitar repair, that kind of stuff. And a house band from a fancy smancy nightclub in Jackson, Mississippi, came in and said, "Dude, Kenny, the guy that ran the place, wants a comedian. You should go do it." And of course, I had been told for years, "You should be a comedian," but it wasn't just like telling somebody you should be a bullfighter. Well, how do you do
Right.
that? Right, man. But I went and actually booked the gig because I had literally, once again, been compelled to make people laugh and smile my whole life. So my first two times on stage to ever do stand up were 20-minute sets. And that's a lifetime. 2 minutes is a
Yeah.
lifetime
Right.
on
Most
stage
Yeah.
people
when
get
you're a
3 minutes
beginner.
their first time if they're lucky. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Correct. And so I had some props. I had no material. I did material off, uh, old comedy albums, Steve Martin and stuff like that, and was really lousy at doing it on stage. But I knew that it was a question of learning the mechanics of delivering on stage because it's a whole different ballgame. If we were all three sitting around just chilling, being funny, that's easier to make your buddies laugh. But when there's an audience of people sitting in those chairs with their arms crossed with your name on the ticket they just paid money for,
Yeah.
it's a whole different environment. And
Right.
and I'll say this, you cannot practice performing stand up unless you're under duress. You can get in front of a mirror and try to remember, try to learn what it is you want to say, but unless you're in front of that audience where you're under duress, you can't really practice it. Because you know how it is, man, when you're under duress like that, your motor skills are different, your breathing is jacked up, and so you have to learn to be able to deal with, once again, environmental concerns, if you will, in order to get that point across to people. So that's where the art form is. That's where you have to be on stage again and again and again. The new guys always they'll ask me, "Dude, what does it take?" And I tell them it takes getting your heart broken 1,000 times and building that scar tissue and keep coming back. Because when you're doing stand-up, when you're doing original material that you wrote, in your heart you believe it's worthy and you
Yeah.
believe people are going to dig it and get off on it. And when that doesn't happen, it is hurtful, man. It's a personal affront. You're embarrassed, you're ashamed, you kick yourself for not excelling, and it is such a learning curve, very, very detailed oriented. Just, the last two words in a bit can be flip-flop and make it work or make it not work. There is so much that you have to learn just trial by fire and get over it when you're not good at it yet. But I
Yeah.
believe, but once again, man, I knew since I was a child that I was funny. And so that is what helped me out, was that I was able to realize it's all about learning the mechanics and getting the experience level.
But you know, you bring up a good point, and I've been a broken record about this, is work ethic and getting out there and doing it. And when I say work ethic, I'm not talking about digging holes and digging ditches and all that kind of stuff. When people see a work ethic, they think, oh, labor. But comedy, you can't get really good at it unless you're doing it often and performing often. No matter what your talent level is, you have to get out in front of the crowd and do it, and do it again, and do it again, and do it again. And after 30 years, you reach your level. It's not like something that you just walk up and you first time, or you can do it once every 3 months or any of that kind of stuff. If you're serious about it, you got to get out there and perform as much as
That's true.
possible.
That's true. And you need material. That's one of the things that you see a lot these days from the newer, younger comics is so much crowd work.
Right.
And to me, that's really not crafting the stories. It's, my big sister, Vicki Lynn Beasley, is so funny making smart aleck remarks about stuff. I mean,
Right.
she will just kill you. She is so funny. But to me, that's not the art form.
Right.
To me, the people I want to see and that I want to emulate are the people who put in the time to write the stories, to work out the bits and perform them, instead of just being in a nightclub saying, okay, what's your deal? And making a smart aleck remark about their answer.
Right.
So
Are-
that's one of the things I've seen in the art form as it has progressed over all these years, is that in and this is a humble opinion of mine, is that it's so much easier just to go up there and riff at something an audience member says. That, to me, that is so much easier than crafting and writing and perfecting a bit that you can deliver to the people.
I
So,
completely agree with you, and like I have friends that can make me laugh. If it's just going to be somebody riffing at stuff, I wouldn't pay for that. You know what? You pay for the artist to see their work, their original work. You're not paying for to hang out with a buddy.
right, right. And we all know people that are just bone crushing, hurt you funny when you're
Right.
hanging out with them. But
Right.
that's
Yeah.
but that's not the art form.
Right. So you're going to be in Tabor City, North Carolina, at the Ritz Center. Now it looks like a big theater. Do you have a preference on like comedy clubs versus theater? Theaters are generally higher stages. You're further away from the audience, energetically wise. Do you prefer comedy clubs over theaters, or theaters over comedy clubs, or do you not
Well,
have?
and there's two ways to look at it. It's more lucrative in one night in a theater
Right, of
than it
course.
can be in a full week at a comedy club. There's one thing about it. Now, with that being said, the intimacy of a comedy club,
Yeah,
close room, people right there with you, that's an awesome thing. That's what you want. It's a very intimate and fragile art form. But you've theaters are great if you've got the chops.
yeah,
It's a different, once again, environmental concern. It's a different ball game in a theater. So you've got to have your chops up in order to do that. And you're limited with the crowd work that you would do in a
right,
theater, because they're not just sitting around you
yeah.
like there. So it's kind of a higher level as far as what it takes to be successful at it.
I totally agree. I mean that, and the same would be for music. You can be a club scene kind of guy, like I have been all my life, or a theater guy. There is a level of expectation. The art form is raised a little bit, but it's also kind of and this could be a little disconcerting for a comedian. In a theater, you get more applause than laughter sometimes, and not that people aren't enjoying it and laughing, but the the environment of being in a theater makes this more acceptable than just bursting out laughing. And I know a lot of comedians who don't like applause. They would, laugh or don't, but don't clap.
Yeah, I like. Well, what you want is big laughter followed by applause.
Okay, yeah,
That's what you want. And
And
so
a snort or two sprinkled in there.
yeah, that. So it's it is such a fun art form, man. On the days that it goes right, which thank God these days most of them do, but there's always a jacked up show waiting for you. You never stop paying dues.
oh,
That is something
that's an
else.
important message as well. Yeah. Uh,
Correct, man.
Yeah. So now being up in the theater though, it is kind of, I think it raises your art form because you can't do crowd work, and it kind of forces you to be more of a professional, more of an artist in the theater world rather than a club world. Do you
I,
agree with it?
Yeah, I do agree, man. And there is some crowd work you can do depending on the shape of the room. And there's lots of stories that I do. I talk about, I used to do shows on cruise ships, and I'll ask, even in theaters, who's been on cruises? And that kind of leads me into the stories that I tell about cruise ship gigs. So
Right.
you can do some crowd, but you can't do just crowd work in a theater. Man, you've got to have material. It's got to be strong, and it's got to be practiced to be able to control and kill, if you will, a
Right.
large room like that.
Yeah. Now, where's home for you now? Is it still Mississippi?
Now, Mobile, Alabama. I
Mo-
went from Jackson, Mississippi to Nashville in either 84 or 85. Zany's Comedy Club, Nashville. It's one of the A rooms in America. Brought me up there, managed me, and that's where I popped, was Nashville. I was getting some traction in Mississippi. I had won Showtime Cable Network's funniest person in Mississippi for 3 years in a row, sending videos of my act. That was way back. They were doing a funniest person in America contest.
Right.
This,
That was like
yeah,
in the 80s, right?
correct.
I was
Ellen
in one of
DeGeneres.
those.
Right, Ellen DeGeneres was working out of Louisiana at the time, so she was winning in Louisiana. I was winning in Mississippi, and when I finally made the move into actually going across state lines to a comedy club, I had that credit with me that helped me get in the door.
Very
I
cool.
did I did 311 shows before I ever saw a comedian in person. And
Wow.
it was in venues that were not what you want to do stand up in. Pool halls, country music rooms, places where they wouldn't cut the jukebox off, where they wouldn't quit shooting pool during my sets, but you've got to get that stage time. So I did all these terrible, terrible gigs and was working at this music store and was sent to Chicago to the NAM show, the big
Yeah,
music.
yeah.
Okay, you're familiar with that, the musical
North
merchandise.
American music merchants. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And so I blew off the concert they had us to go to that night, which was Steve Morse and the Dixie Dregs. I
Wow.
blew that concert off and went to Zany's Comedy Club downtown Chicago on Wells Street. I walked in the door and it changed my life before I ever sat down, because here was a room and all the chairs and tables were set up looking at the stage. That was a new thing. I had never been in an
Yeah.
environment where people were there to hear me.
Right.
And so, I mean, people just let me go up and do time. And so that in itself was like, oh my gosh, that these people are going to listen. Look, this is what they're here for. And
Right.
so that was an epiphany for me. And the headliner was Jay Leno. This was
Wow.
way back in the early 80s when he was crushing on the road. And he walked out there and absolutely destroyed that audience. And that lit the fire in me that much more. So when I got back to Jackson, Mississippi after that trip, I did only 7 more shows before I decided, you know what, this is not the way you do it. And that's what, having seen Leno at Zany's, is what helped me overcome my fear of the unknown
Right.
and called the closest comedy club to me, which was 5 hours away in Birmingham, Alabama.
Wow.
So I went over and auditioned, had to audition for open mic night. And that in itself was hilarious because I didn't know how to do it. I pretended there was an audience and all this stuff, but the guy booked me, and the people seemed to like me. So got on the road then, and then in 84, 85, Zany's Nashville took me under their wing and brought me to Nashville. Now, when you're getting started out in comedy and you start getting traction, you want to go to a large market. And back then, everybody went to New York or Los Angeles. And so while I was trying to decide my move, my cousin, who's a screenplay writer, called me, goes, dude, he goes, go to Nashville. People will not discriminate because of your accent. There's national TV, there's record deals, they make movies. Hendrix gigged in Nashville. And so I went to Nashville, and that's where I popped. Did 100 appearances on TNN, if you remember that old network, and CMT and all that. So that's really where I went, where I was accepted. So that was a big deal for me to get to do that.
Zanies is still one of the most popular, and it can a lot of people make their career by starting at Zanies. I've known so many comedians who their first major breakthrough started at Zanies. So you know what, Nashville has always played an important part in the comedy industry.
Yes, sir.
So now with the Moonshiner show, how does that put a dent in your traveling and at all as far as the taping schedule
There,
for?
yeah, there are logistics there because I have a pretty intense tour schedule. So we have to try to coordinate my tour with my filming dates. And so that's kind of a pain, but it's worthwhile. You know, it's still it's a labor of love, if you will. And so I'm lucky. I say lucky, I mean blessed, dude. I got to tell you that I'm spiritual. God's been good to me, and I like letting people know that.
Good for you.
Yeah, man. But I am married to my agent. I'm married to my agent, and she and I own the company that books me, and so she gets to travel with me. I'm not one of these guys that's away from my family all the time. When our kids were little, we took them on tour with us, and it has really been a neat thing to do. I feel for the guys who have to be away from their loved ones because
Right.
you can't just, it's hard to stay in just one spot and do stand up.
Also, the idea of having to book yourself, having an agent is the number one thing that will make your life easier, no matter what you're out doing show business. That will up level you to a point where you can just concentrate on your craft and not have to worry about the business end of it. So good for you.
Right. And I'll say this now, if there's young comics or young people in any form of show business, when you get to the level where you can use an agent, a manager, whatever, that really sort of ups your legitimacy as well.
Right.
You know, because if you're good enough for representation for a professional cat that represents artists, then that's another rung on the ladder for you.
Right. Well, we appreciate you being here. We do have to move along, but killerbees.com, that's BEAZ, killerbees, all one word, .com. SC Laughs for the tickets, which will redirect you to JJ Comedy. Either way you get there, jjcomedy.com, sclaughs.com. Tabor City, North Carolina, March 8th. Go see Killer Bees. You're going to love it. And thank you for being part of the show, and please do come back again sometime.
Thank you so much, man. Y'all have a blessed day. Love you.
You too. Bye for now. Killer Bees, folks. You know, I'm sorry. You could have just said it's bees, not Baez, but you.
Well, I didn't know. I didn't know.
Go ahead.
I did not know it was bees. I assumed it was bees, but I was trusting you that you knew what it was. But
But
I
you
just
had a question, and all you did was mumble about it. Like, spit it out, man. What is it? Speaking of spitting it out, it's time for our next guest, who spits it out quite often.
don't take that shit from him, Jackie.
Jackie is back.
If you
Welcome back, Jackie.
swallow with pride, don't take that shit from him.
Look at his hair.
Well, mine? Yeah, it's beautiful.
No.
I know.
Your partner's hair. He hears that southern accent. He freezes up. He doesn't know what he's doing.
Well,
Freaks him
let
out.
me just. Please don't call him my partner ever again. I can't deal with that. He's a subordinate.
A stalker?
He's hired help. Yeah, no, more like a stalker. You're right. That you have it better than I do. So anyway, welcome back. It's been a while since I haven't seen you since the Q&A stuff where you yelled out in a crowded room, "I got pot in the car."
Hey, I don't know who it is, but my connection today was falling out.
It is again. We're having trouble lately. Lately, we have trouble with your connection. Yeah, you want to try it on the
beginning?
No, can you try it on the phone? Because last time you went to the phone and it worked out. Yeah, try that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because you're getting stuck and froze up. I can't believe he called you my partner. Now, let's practice your stuttering again. What do you have to say? I have a question. Go ahead.
I don't have to practice that. I can do that on demand. I was trying to find certain words, and at the same time, I was unable to. I couldn't feel what I want to say.
Well, that's what just happened again. Now Jackie's back. It looks like his connection's even better, but we have to put him in this window. Now that's better. That's better. Except it looks like you're looking down on me.
Well, I had to get this thing turned on first.
Yeah, I know.
Once it's on, then I'm off to the races here.
Once it's yeah. So you sent me something. You got some. Are you at the Bolton Theater now? You're doing a screening at the Bolton Theater soon or something?
Yeah, we finally came through this week. I mean, it's been in the offing for a while, but some of these places are now. How do I get this to be bigger?
It's not. It's big. Oh, for you to see, because we can see you fine. You're big. You're a very big man.
You're in the show.
Yeah. No, it looks good. That looks really good.
All right.
So it's April 5th. You're at the Bolton Center. I just want to bring these dates up before we get to. Let me take Killer Bee's thing out of here and put Jokeland in there. Now, so the Bolton Center thing in Bayshore, Long Island, is April 5th, which is Erica Rhodes' birthday, and my friend Ralphie. Yes, and my friend Ralphie's birthday, and 8 p.m. Saturday. That's tomorrow at the Raz Room in New Hope, New Hope Inn.
It's a little room in New Hope, but New Hope's a great place, a great city, and it's a tiny room, and I've been doing it for years, and I dig it. It's a long ride, but I don't know about you, but I love an elevator gig where you're staying in the hotel, and then you just go down the elevator and go in the room to perform, like Las Vegas or something. It's just it's a whole different animal,
It's been 17 years since I did one of those, but yes, I love those when you just take an elevator down to the gig, and
it's much better than the gigs I had where I had to sleep in my car to perform.
Did you ever have to do that, Jackie? Like sleep in your car for a gig?
It's choices. When I played these gigs far away in Jersey, like a firehouse or something like that, very often I would drive early because you don't want to get caught when you got to go from Long Island to somewhere in New Jersey for a Friday night show. That means you're going through traffic on the expressway, going around the city, and then you're back in traffic. So I always avoid any rush hour traffic.
So I get there a couple hours early. But if it's a firehouse or something like that, and I didn't have a room, I would sleep in the car for a couple hours or sit there and read or whatever, I'm good at killing time. You just, that's part of the gig. You just wind up doing that,
Right.
I mean, you don't love it.
Right.
Did you ever meet Killer Bees, who was just on the program before you?
No, I don't think I ever met him, but that was so nostalgic listening to, because I was just telling stories about Zanies the other night. It's so funny that he talked about that. Oh,
Wow.
That's a little better. Now, does that look a little better?
Well, it looks pretty good anyway. Yeah. Oh, yeah. The lighting is a little better now. Yeah.
The whole Zanies thing, that was right when I was starting too, and it was. I'd love to talk to him because Zanies in those days, we talked about that, right? Zanies was a whorehouse.
I didn't know. We never talked about that. Now I'm intrigued because even today, so many comedians are getting their first big break at Zanies. I did not know it started as a whorehouse.
When I first worked there, it was the one room on Wells, and it's a very long. It should not be a comedy club. It's a very long, thin bar. It's just the total wrong setup. But Ricky Hewitt, the guy that owned it, was the greatest guy. And it was a whorehouse, like a rub and tug massage parlor. And he told me he used to always have to jump out the back window to run from the cops. So he got sick of doing that. So he made it into an X-rated bookstore. And then, of course, the guys are getting hand jobs and everything in the back. So the cops came. So he jumped out the window. He said, and then he said, you know what? I'm going to try a comedy club. And it was right in the beginning, like 80 or 81, whenever. And people loved it right away. And everybody worked there. When I worked there, I don't know whether it was 82 or 83. There already was every, Dennis Wolfberg, Jerry Seinfeld, Larry Miller, all the 8x10s were already there because people are so voracious for a place to work.
But could you still get a hand job there? Could you still get a hand job?
Yeah, but I got it from another comic.
Oh, okay.
But the deal was when you worked there, you stayed upstairs. And I swear to God, upstairs, the walls were red velvet. It was like an old Western whorehouse up there. It was hysterical. And of course, everybody wrote what they had to say on the wall. And me and Uncle Larry Reeb, I don't know if you ever heard of him, but we brought a couple hookers back there, and it was just such a joy. And I gave the hookers Stump the Joke Man T-shirts, which is I was always hoping that one day Jay Leno was going to be walking down Wells Street and see a hooker in the Stump the Joke Man T-shirt. And then Nashville Zanies opened, which was just a field day. I had the greatest time. That was the last place I worked before I quit the road. I was freaking out because, the Stern Show, I was starting to kick in. I was on like one day a week, and all of a sudden we went to mornings. And I said, Nancy, I can't sit out there for a whole day waiting to do 40 minutes at night. And she said, well, just stop the road and, it'll fill in. So I told Howard, I'm off the road now. And right away I was on, 3, 4, 5 days a week. But I knew it was my last week. And I got so drunk last night in Zanies, Nashville. And I told the guys and whoever was at the bar, I told them the Aristocrats. And when I got to the end, I ran and slid across the barroom floor on my stomach. And that's what I'm describing in the movie The Aristocrats. If you remember, I'm lying on the floor flailing, and I'm telling them my most, memorable version of telling that joke. And I actually went down there to audition to go to Iraq. So it was a great place for me, Zanies.
Watch this. GD, do you know the movie The Aristocrats?
I know the joke The Aristocrats and the movie Aristocats. But,
wow. Well, we'll give him a pass. Jesus. If he's that stupid, I have to get my coffee.
I am that stupid. Why didn't you have your coffee already?
The Aristocrats was a movie that was put together by Paul Provenza. I think Penn Jillette had something to do.
No, Penn Jillette and Paul Provenza were partners, And they came to my apartment in Manhattan. They said, Martling, we're doing a movie about the joke, The Aristocrats, and we have to put you in it because we did a search on The Aristocrats on the web, and we only got 2 hits, and they were both your website.
Really? I would have thought Gilbert but that was later, right? That Gilbert
The version, people always yell at me. They think I'm full of crap. The version that Gilbert told at the Hefner roast was very, very close to the version I told him when I told him that joke.
Wow.
I heard that joke in like 1979 from the really, really classic comic. You should probably get him on your show. His name's Martin Lewis, and he's a comic magician.
Right.
And we're working in Fort Lauderdale, and he told us that joke, and I went nuts. It became my favorite joke. And I've talked to you about those big, huge books by Gershon Legman.
Yeah.
And, they're so big and thick. And one day I said, oh, you know what? I'm going to start from the back and work forward. And his premise was that you're totally defined by what you think is funny, which is, if you think about it, it's pretty interesting, right? So I'm going from the back, and The Aristocrats is the last joke on the last page of the second volume of his 2-volume set. And it was told to him, oddly enough, by a comic magician who was actually in the movie The Aristocrats, telling his version of the joke. And I went wild because I was already telling the joke. I had had these books for years. You just can't get through them. They're like the Bible. They're just this big, and And so I went nuts, and the internet had just started to happen. And I put his version of the joke, and I had put out a joke book, a Simon Schuster joke book. And then as an homage to Gershon Legman, I made The Aristocrats the last joke on the last page of my book. So on my website, I had his version and my version. So when they did a search, those are the 2 versions they came up with. And I have no place in that. But if you look at the poster for that movie, every single name on that poster is 5 times more famous and successful than me. But they had to put me in it because, I was a source of a lot of information.
Yeah, there's nothing funny about that joke on its own. I mean, it's not the funniest joke in the world if it's just told as written. It's got to be. It's all in the what you add to it.
I think it's very funny because I look at it as a real show business quirk, because on the road, it always seemed to me, working in Holiday Inns or whatever, so whatever band was playing at the lounge in a Holiday Inn, the smaller and the worse the band is, the more ornate a name they had. So I thought it was just so funny that this disgusting act with all the shit and piss and incest and all that crap, and then calling them the Aristocrats, I thought that was the absolute ultimate of that concept.
Yeah, but in the raw bones of the joke, that all that disgusting stuff isn't really. It's just a little bit of that. It's just like the raw bones of it is just they come in and they're rude and crude, and what's the name of the act? And so if you break it down to that, it's how like Saget just went on and on forever and ever, making that like.
Well, that's the old Shaggy Dog thing. I'm sure you know the story about Charlie the Boil Sucker.
No.
Well, that's a joke that every year at the comic strip Christmas party, the guys would take turns seeing who could make it last the longest. I think Larry Miller made the joke last 45 minutes one year. But this guy, Charlie, gets a job as a boil sucker. And his first day on the job, he knocks on the door, and this big fat lady answers the door. And she brings him in, and she sits in a chair in the kitchen, and she pulls up her skirt. He's got a huge, monstrous boil on the inside of her thigh. And he's like, oh, man. So he wraps his lips around this huge boil and just starts sucking on this boil. And sucking and sucking and spitting out Jesus, and sucking and spitting. And then the lady cuts a monstrous wet fart. And Charlie says, lady, it's people like you that make my job disgusting. Which is so funny. But you can see how you can just an accordion, take an accordion to that joke, and oh.
I wonder if that was like Norm's an influence on Norm, because Norm he made a second career out of being on talk shows and taking these very mundane jokes and making them 15 minutes long.
But that's as old as pioneers. You know, when people sat around a campfire, that's what they did. They're called shaggy dog stories that go on and on and on and on, and then wind up with the worst punchline or the worst pun, or, you know, and then what do you have in his mouth? The brick from the last joke, you know. And it's just great fun, just silly, great fun, you know.
Yeah. You were on a show the other day with two broads, two ladies, I should say.
Two broads.
I know. Listen to
Frank Sinatra.
I am two broads. Yeah, we can pick us up a couple of broads and.
The guy who managed the Fort Lauderdale comic strip, and I'm sure I've told you this before, was from the Bronx. He was this little angry guy who we all loved because he was such a hoot. He literally, in his lexicon, not being funny, sometimes you say a word or you make a reference because you think you're being cute. It was actually in his speech, in his lexicon, he referred to some women, as tomatoes.
Tomatoes. Yeah.
You know, and then last night, a couple of these tomatoes came in here and I would pee my pants every time because he wasn't being, like, I still call it an icebox.
Yeah, no.
Refrigerator, because my father called it an icebox, and refrigerator was like a new word. And me and my cousin, my sister, we're not trying to be cool or retro. It's just that's the icebox.
Yeah, Ralphie the weed grower, who I brought to your house that time, he always calls women tomatoes, other than his wife. Like,
it's so funny.
Yeah.
So you were saying about the two girls.
Guilty pleasures. Now, that was Strong Island. Have you done anything over there, Strong Island Studios, Paradise Studios, whatever it's called now?
I was there 2 nights ago. I did it. We had this really cute young girl who was a comic who had taken Peter Bale's class, and her mother had also taken Peter Bale's class, and they're doing
guilty pleasures, right? Oh no, guilted
so
to
that's
it.
what you're talking about, guilted into it. Yeah, the mother played Annie on Broadway, and she's so cool and so cute and such a sweetheart. And her daughter Bridget's really nice and funny. And we had them on the show together. So I went to Strong Island. That is such a cute little room. I can't stand how adorable that room is.
I know. I'm going to have to get there.
Rooms, there's like 6 rooms. And they were there. And her name's Roseanne Sorrentino. And her mother, Judy, was there. So I got three generations of women. And I got them laughing. I'm like, I must know what I'm doing. You know, and her boyfriend, Judy's boyfriend, Otto, you know, there's 3 generations, and I swear, Matt, I am sure I'm older than all of them, okay? But right after us was the Firehouse podcast with Peter's partner, Rich, and John.
Rich Walker?
Yeah, Rich Walker and John the Fireman. They were the podcast right after the Guilty Pleasures.
Yeah.
And they started their thing. And the first time, I bet you the first time in 30 years, I mooned them while they were on the air. I just stood down 15 feet from them and mooned them with the 3 generations of women there. And that guy, Otto, laughed his ass off. He must be, 50, 60, 70, I don't know. But such a nice guy, and he was dying. And I said, look at you, you son of a bitch. I bet you haven't laughed that hard in 20 years. He said, I don't think I have. Because it was so uncalled for, but such harmless fun, you know.
Were you saying you mooned somebody? It automatically triggers my brain into the most disgusting story I ever heard you tell about.
No, you don't have to tell that story again.
No, I'm not telling it, but it triggered my brain into that, and it's not a good place to be. I gotta work myself out of it.
You know, Marlon Brando used to moon people on his sets all the time.
I think he mooned somebody in the mafia. What it was, Joe Colombo or somebody like that. While they were doing The Godfather, he was just tired of them following him around or something, and he mooned one of those guys.
Well, I think he just liked to do that, and then they would fill in the blanks of the whys and the wherefores and whoever.
Right. Now, you had sent me a clip of I think it was your no, not your 40th birthday. Yeah, your 40th birthday thing, and it was like, what the hell is this? Did you have a show on some kind of cable network or something? I didn't know what it was. Did you have some kind of?
What that was? You're talking about the clip from my birthday roast?
Yes.
My future ex-wife, no, my ex-wife, she was my wife by then.
Yeah.
Threw a surprise 40th birthday party for me at the East Side Comedy Club. And it was taped, and it was just the most, I mean, she dug up everybody. And there's tapes of it lying around here, but they're like 3/4-inch tapes. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Umatic. Sony Umatics. Yeah.
So, but I got my friend Ed Huther transfers stuff for me, and I find these old VHS tapes, and I found a VHS tape, and on the side it said roast. So, and I gave him a bunch of stuff to transfer, and it's always fun. It's like mining for gold, the crap I got. So I look at it, and it was a VHS. It must have been a VHS copy of one of the pneumatic tapes, and it had Gary and Fred singing, making fun of my song. Then it had the guys from Pig Vomit, who were in Howard's band, doing a song to break my balls. And then it had Richard M. Dixon, which is priceless.
Wow.
And then it had, you should have watched the whole thing. And then it had Howard made an MP3, made a cassette tape, and they brought it in and they played that. And then my father got up and sang a song. I played the guitar and my father sang a song. And this is all on that.
I saw the whole thing, but you know what? Because Richard M. Dixon was before my time, I didn't even realize that was him. I used to go past the White House all the time and think, wow, there's comedy going on here.
God. Oh God!
We have now. We're on the all black
face.
Oh yeah, no, there you go. What'd you get? A phone call? Or something?
No, I was trying to. I thought I hit the volume down.
Oh, now you're all over the place.
Oh God,
it's funny. But
I'm sorry,
yeah.
I'm just trying to adjust the volume. Yeah, so Dixon's such a character,
Yeah. And your father singing with you, I think at the end of everything, it's pretty cool. I mean, so you know what?
But that roast had everybody, Minervini and Hawthorne and Bob Woods, King Broder. I mean, all these guys are in it, and and also Perry Apollo from WBAB when I used to go on every morning with Perry and Bob Buckman. I mean, the roast went on and on and on, and you would know most of the people in it, and. I really, at some point, it's tricky trying to find somebody who can transfer a pneumatic tape, like.
Yeah, it's forever ago.
Yeah. So.
Now this thing, what is this called? Safe Distance from Genius? What is that?
A Safe Distance from Genius was the very first videotape we ever put out, and then I came out with a DVD in the mid-90s. And I didn't want to waste the great title. So I named it that. What happened was I love that quote because I lost both my brothers to suicide because they're way too brilliant, way too off the map smart. They weren't even from this planet. And I was like the third little pig that worked hard, and built the house out of brick. And, and I was the striver. And people people think I'm smart. And they, respect me, but I'm like the dopiest guy in my family because I'm a safe distance from genius. I'm just not smart enough that I have to work. And what happened was I was recording stuff in the mid-'80s, and me and Nancy got the bright idea that we should make a videotape because it was becoming the rage. So we went in and we took a bunch of whatever tapes we had, and we created a VHS tape, an hour-and-a-half VHS tape that we edited. We home edited a VHS tape called it A Safe Distance from Genius. And this is just when they were starting to have stores where you could rent VHS tapes. And Pine Hollow Video was this little tiny video store in Oyster Bay. And we had one copy. And I put the copy, I gave it to them to rent. But then I'm on the Howard Stern show saying, if you want to rent Jackie's VHS tape, go to Pine Hollow Video. And of course, you know, they're getting so many people coming in asking for it, and they only had one copy. So we said, what the hell? So we made it. We made copies of it, and we made a poster for it. The poster, I still have 1,000 of them. They're the size of like circus posters, and they're beautiful. I'll send you one. It's a great fun thing. Big, huge cartoon of my gang and whatever. And the posters cost like $2,000. And I think that the videotape cost us $300 or something like that.
Yeah.
But everybody loved it. And it's so horrible. And it's so stupid, but it's
not really hard. You know what? I enjoyed it. And I thought when I watched it, I remember thinking that it was like from the early days of the Playboy Channel, when in between the softcore nudie flicks, they would have like comedy bits. Your energy on there, and don't take this as an insult at all. It's not meant to be. It's all meant to be a compliment. Your energy is it's almost Chuck Barris level of high energy, where you don't see it. Obviously, you were a younger man then, but it's really enjoyable. You got this kind of show host type of vibe, which is different.
Now, where did you see it, and which version did you see?
Safe Distance from Genius Tape 2 is the one I got, and you're like running across the stage. There's lots of broads in this. A lot of women. I'm sorry, I keep saying broads.
Oh, you know what? That is from the DVD.
It's Stump the Joke Man stuff. Yeah.
When I put out the DVD, it's a whole bunch of stand-up, and then it had 6 of my songs, and I think 4 hunks of Stump the Joke Man. It's a great DVD, and this is much later, because that early version, the VHS, that just had jokes like at Governors and stuff, and really bad quality. But the Safe Distance from Genius DVD is a hoot, and the stuff that I get away with those girls is just staggering. But
yeah,
but the audience at Rascals, they loved it. My deal was, I was such a finagler. They wanted me to host the Rascals Comedy Hour, which involved me going up and doing a monologue, and I would tell 7, 8, 10 minutes of jokes, and it'd get longer and longer, and they'd get off because I got 3 comics to do in an hour. So I'd do my monologue and then bring up the comics one at a time. But my deal with Rascals was I wasn't getting paid very much, but they had to keep the cameras running. So after the show was done, I would do 15 or 20 minutes of Stump the Joke Man with the cameras still going. And the audience, of course, you want to stay for a little more. It was always packed, and they went berserk. So the audience, they knew exactly what was going on. And they knew they were going to come up and get a shirt. And with all the craziness, there was never a complaint by anybody. And everybody had so much fun. And it was wild, the stuff that I would put. And the girls loved it. It was just, and I have hours of that stuff. Hours. But it's all on that goddamn pneumatic,
Yeah, that's the bitch of it. But you know what? Today, to repurpose that for today, I think you get a lot of traction on making those making shorts of that kind of stuff, or short videos for YouTube and all that. Yeah, but you're right. Who's got a pneumatic player even?
But it really be worthwhile. You know what? I've always told you that I have all the notes I ever wrote for Howard.
Yeah.
And I got people that want to buy them, or maybe buy all of them. And I'm not getting any younger. And I'm like, you know what? I really got to get them out of my mother's attic. It's so much stuff. It's so much stuff. And somebody was talking about, what the great day when Conan O'Brien came in and we threw him a goodbye party. Because the reason he came on was because his show was suffering, and the rumors were that he was going to get fired.
Right.
So he came on as a guest, and we threw him a goodbye party, which was just so wrong. And the Jackie puppet viciously attacked him, and it was a classic day. And I told people, if you could tell me what date it was, I could probably, come up with the notes from that day. And this is not even believable. There are so many boxes of notes in my mother's house, but I said, you know what? Before I give this stuff away, let me bring over a couple boxes, and just go through them and see if it's interesting, because maybe I do want to go through them. So I got these 2 boxes here, and for no reason at all the other day, I said, you know what, I had some time because I did the Mark Simone show, and the only way I can get a copy of it is the Polish way of playing it and recording it with my iPhone. So I got 12 minutes to kill, and I take a chunk of these notes out of the box, and I look, and I always put on the top of the notes, I have a piece of paper folded over, and who's the guest, Richard Lewis or Leslie West, whatever. So I look through a couple of notes. I'm this interesting, so I start just going through the chunks by day, and I see Conan O'Brien, Pete Rose, and I look, and I'm like, you're kidding. And the joke that Billy West quotes the most from that show, there's the actual note when he said, when the Jackie Puppet said, it's Conan bye-bye. And it's so classic. But I got all the notes. So if somebody played the audio tape of that show, you could follow the jokes on the notes. I'll send it to you. I scanned a little bit of it. Wow. But I realized there's so much stuff there and so many jokes about Pete Rose's gambling. Not jokes, just lines. But the randomness, I mean, there's so many dates, and it was October 1994. I mean, it's ridiculous to try and figure out why that happened, but I got it, and it's priceless stuff.
You mentioned Jackie's puppet and the Jackie puppet, and I got it at the Long Island Hall thing. And at the moment you got to the end of it, this is the one moment where the proprietor of the whole place decides to come over and have a conversation with me. Well, because I didn't even know about this whole Jackie puppet and the lie detector thing. Who took maybe I don't know if you want to go into the whole story, but who took the fucking puppet? You brought in the lie detector stuff, and then the guy starts talking to me. I was like, damn it, I didn't hear the end of this fucking story.
I'll make it as quick as I can. The Stern Show, I left the Stern Show, and they had 5 more years at K-Rock. And then they got hired and went to Sirius XM, okay? And I guess at some point when they got to Sirius XM, somebody said, where's the Jackie puppet? Yeah, where's the Jackie puppet? I mean, I heard all this in retrospect, all right? Where's the Jackie puppet? And then somebody said, after we left K-Rock, Jackie used to go in there once in a while, because I went in there, I auditioned for a show to see if they wanted to use me for something. I sat with Diamond Dave, when he had a show, and I did a couple hours with Penn Jillette. I did an hour for Penn Jillette's show, and when I was done, he said, you were so interesting, man, let's do another hour. So me and Emily Gillette and Penn Jillette did another whole hour. And I was in there a couple times, and it of course blossomed, just like the whole Rodney Dangerfield thing, the way things blossomed. You know what? I think the Jackie puppet was in the closet. Yeah, Jackie probably went through Jackie probably found it, and Jackie probably took it. So it grew into Jackie stole the Jackie puppet. So they're tossing this around. And I don't know this. I don't listen, but of course I hear it from everybody. Oh, they're having a good time with you stole the puppet. So then, just trying to be funny. Hold on, let me turn that. Oh God.
Hello. Is this the lie detector people? Oh, do you have the results? Yes, Jackie did steal the puppet. We're waiting for Jackie, who's turning his phone off. That was 922 joke line actually ringing. No,
that's Omnipop talent.
Oh.
I usually turn it off. So I'm annoyed at this whole thing because it's so absurd. Okay, I hadn't seen the puppet in however many years. So I called up. I don't know whether they emailed or called Steve, whatever his name was, that was in charge of Howard 100 News. And I said, you know what? You got me. I got the puppet. I printed out a picture of the puppet, but the size of the puppet, cut it out and mounted it on cardboard. I have this picture somewhere. So I got the Jackie puppet on my lap. I mean, it's a piece of cardboard, but it looks like the puppet. And I'm holding an issue of the Post from that day, like a kidnapper.
Proof of life.
And then I said, all right, you caught me. I got the puppet. Come on out and get it. So they're going to come get the Jackie puppet. They got the Howard Z100 van and the whole thing. And I said, I can't do this. And I called up and I said, Steve, you guys, you're just such morons. Of course I don't. And then I showed him a picture of the puppet sideways. It's a piece of cardboard. And I said, you morons. I said, but I got an idea. You know what you do? You get that idiot. There's a guy who used to come on the show every once in a while that did a lie detector test. I said, get the moron with the lie detector test and have him come into the show and ask everybody in the cast and crew and everybody at Sears, ask everybody, where's the Jackie puppet? And you'll find the culprit. And I will be the first guy in line and I'll answer any question he wants just to prove that I have no idea where the puppet is. And Steve Langford, he goes, man, that is a great bit. I can't wait to tell Howard. He's going to love that. And so Langford, I guess, went and told Howard the idea, the concept. The concept was never heard from again. And the next morning, Howard showed up at Sirius with the puppet.
So Howard had the puppet.
The entire time he had the puppet. He just wanted me out of sight, out of mind. The puppet got so popular. I mean, everybody loved that stupid puppet. It was just so silly,
That's what I thought I heard, but that guy was talking to me the whole time. And so I've been telling people I think Howard stole a puppet, but I wasn't sure about that.
I mean, he didn't steal. It was his. But the fact was,
right.
He knew that everybody was accusing me, and, he just didn't want it around,
Yeah. Good story. Now, I hope we didn't ruin that for the next Q&A at the Bolton Theater, which is on April 5th. Speaking of April 5th, that would be Ralphie's birthday, too, April 5th. Go see Jackie at the Bolton Theater on April 5th.
The Bolton Center
for Performing Arts.
For the Performing Arts, and it's April 5th. And the link is on jokeland.com or go to Bolton Center. And the movie is 75 minutes, and the Q&A I did was like longer than that. It was like an hour and 20 minutes. The people, they're interested in all that garbage.
Totally. And I felt bad for you, but you like that stuff. I did not. I was thinking, man, this is brutal. This is like a long, long time to be out, and doing a show like that. It's longer than your entire stand-up.
I totally enjoy that. When I do a stand-up show, I sell my stuff afterwards. I sign books or whatever. But people always want to talk, and I sit there and tell stories, and I live for that. I love that, because what I love especially is everything I tell them is true, and so much of it goes against what they've heard, and it kind of twists people's heads around a little bit.
Yeah. That woman had you sign a flag that had. Did you see all of the signatures she had on that flag?
I didn't know what it signified. I don't know whether I signed next to Donald Trump or Joe Bolton.
No, it was a flag that had, basically everybody you've ever met plus more people in show business signing it. I was like, wow, she must take that flag everywhere there's a celebrity giving a Q&A or meet and greet.
She was very nice, but she was with two others. They were with my friend Fritz, who's just the greatest character. This guy I've known for 40 years. He used to come see my band in the 70s, back when we had the Pot Song as a 45 RPM single. And he brought these three girls with him. And one of these girls was like staggeringly beautiful and energetic and wonderful and a big fan. And so that girl with the flag was her fan, and I mean her friend. I said, yeah, whatever you want. I'll do it for her, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it was an interesting time. A lot of people there, but the Bolton Center is much bigger than the Hall of Fame. I mean, I think that I don't know. I'm just imagining. I think it holds like 600 people.
I don't think I did a show there, however long ago, and I just love. I went to see Jimmy Webb there. And it was so great, and I just really enjoyed it. And then this girl came up to Michelle. I think she works now at the Patchogue Theater. She came up and said, hey, I booked this place. We'd really love to have you here. And I was like, well, I'm watching Jimmy Webb and thinking how badly I'd love to be on that stage. And then she asked me. So I came and did a show, did really well. But then when I came back the second time, I didn't sell as many tickets, which could be for any amount of reasons, whether burnout or it had been too long or whatever it was. So all of a sudden I wasn't, Mr. Popular. But then people said the place was kind of going downhill and they weren't advertising. And then it closed up for a couple of years, right?
Right, yeah.
But now it's back up and kicking, and I can't wait to go there and do
Bayshore is making a comeback like Patchogue. Patchogue is really an amazing place right now. Full of life, full of entertainment. It's like the entertainment capital of Suffolk County, anyway. And maybe
yeah. And years ago, when they first decided they were going to save the Patchogue Theater, I think it was supposed to get torn down or repurposed or something, and I think the town chipped in and brought the theater back to life. And I did a bunch of those shows. I'm always there and I'm helping out and doing the shows, and then they get up on their feet and then they forget Jackie. It's a little annoying.
Yeah. Well, same thing is happening in Bayshore. Ralphie used to have a club there, the Continental Club, a 3-story club. Fred played there a couple of times. I remember, I was basically doing the band production stuff then, and hanging out with Fred, and he was a very cool guy. I mean, but really, really talented guitar player. He never really pursued his music that much, other than doing little side gigs locally, though. It's interesting.
No, he was, but he's such a team player. He kind of kept it under the radar, because the last thing he would want is for Howard to think he's trying to step out and get any kind of fame. It's just one of the things that frustrates me beyond anything. Do you know the story of him at Abbey Road Studios?
No.
We broadcast, I always say Howard broadcast for a week from Abbey Road Studios, from the actual room, the room where the Beatles did the whole thing, okay? We were over there for the Princess Trust concert. And so we broadcast live from Abbey Road, and I get the chills just talking about it. When we were there in that room, I was pinching myself. I almost got killed on the Abbey Road crosswalk.
Yeah.
And it turns out that a lot of tourists have gotten hurt in England because there was no shoulder, and the traffic is going the other way. So if you go to cross, you look one way, look the other way, and give a cursory look back the other way, and then step out, except it's backwards. And there's a little bit of a curve. So I looked and looked and then looked, but I'm looking the wrong way. And I went to step out, and Fred Norris grabbed me by the collar and pulled me back. And a bus went flying by like 2 feet from my nose. What a place to die, right?
Right. Well,
and I'm good friends with the guy. This guy has earthcam.com. If you ever been to it, he's got cameras everywhere in the world, 24/7 cameras. And he's got cameras 24/7 on the Abbey Road crosswalk. And he gets calls because people get hurt there. And he has the proof of what happened. It's so funny. So we're broadcasting from there. And Leslie West, we have Jack Bruce is on the show. He's a guest. So he's going to play Theme from an Imaginary Western on the piano, which a long dirge, great Cream song. So we call up Leslie West, and he's 7 hours behind, and there's like an 8-second delay on the phone. So Leslie puts the phone up to his amp, and he's playing along with the song, but it's such a slow song that it almost works. And it was just, we were all, not to make a bad joke, but we were all creaming. And then Howard's like, what else can you do? And he said, well, I'm a bass player. He said, and somebody said, well, what about doing Crossroads? He said, well, I'm a bass player. And Fred says, I could play Crossroads. And Jack Bruce and Fred Norris played Crossroads. And I'm telling you, Fred played it as good as Eric Clapton. I mean, that's got to be on the web. I bet you it's not on the web, because I don't know if Howard would let Fred have that kind of spotlight. But it was flawless. And Jack Bruce was blown away, and we were blown away. And the minute they were done, Howard was like, good job, Fred. Okay, where were we, Robin? You know what I mean?
wow.
But it was just incredible. And that was 30 years ago. 30 years ago. And Fred was wailing, imagine Fred was screaming, He's playing Crossroads with Jack Bruce. You can't make that up. You know?
Yeah, no, he was a really good guitar player. The 2 times I got to see him up close. We have to say goodbye to Gov. Now, here's something interesting I just found out, because I was going to announce who was at Gov's this weekend, but Governor's website is down. I don't know if that means the YouTube channel is not down, though, but we have to say goodbye to them. Tony and I'm not